I really want a chief of staff if Iron Man's Pepper Potts handled everything. So I created Pepper.
He wrote a bunch of agents to fill out his timesheet. He's up somewhere skiing while his Claude Code submitted for pull request, and the manager was thinking that the person's actually working.
I should vibe code a black box agent tester. I don't know anything about Rust. And like it works.
There'll be a lot of infrastructure creeping into AppSec. You're almost making the AppSec person multi-skilled, creating memory, infrastructure behind it.
Intelligence is what AI has now made a commodity. That means you spend your whole life learning to process, to be intelligent. And when that is now a commodity, that's just going to eliminate things.
Yeah. At one point in time, the highest respected job you could get was the chariot rider. That job doesn't even exist. It would transform into something. Most mornings, if you're like me, you probably open up your phone or laptop and you go through the news for the industry. You go through news of what's happening in your organization, what things you should be looking at. Most of the time, this could be done by someone else. And usually it is someone called a chief of staff, which fortunately or unfortunately, mostly used to be accessible for chief executives or companies. But with AI, what we've been finding is that you can actually build your own chief of staff. In this episode, Caleb is sharing what he did as his holiday experiment to build a chief of staff for himself. By the way, if you want to make a version of yourself, comment Pepper on this video, wherever you're watching or listening to this. And if we hit 100 comment, we would be open sourcing Pepper to the world as well, which is the chief of staff that Caleb ended up building, all vibe coded. We spoke about the changes that are coming in 2026 and how you can leverage the Claude Code version that is there today, not just as something you talk in an interface for making your angry email not so angry anymore, but also be a little more advanced. And not as someone who comes from a technical background. You could totally be someone who just uses the regular version of AI just to talk to it and use that as a starting point to build your own chief of staff. In this episode, we talk about some of the things that it can do, how it would work on a multi-AI agent. And if you are thinking of building an AI startup, there are definitely a few ideas here that I would definitely encourage you can steal and make one today. So I hope you enjoy this episode of AI Security Podcast. As always, if you have been listening or watching an AI Security Podcast episode for the second or third time and have been finding it valuable, if you can take a quick second to just hit that subscribe or follow button, whichever podcast platform like LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple, Spotify that you may be listening or watching this on. It's a free thing for you, but it means a lot for support to the work that we do here. So thank you so much for taking that 1 second to do that. Enjoy this episode, and I look forward to hearing all the AI capabilities that you build yourself after watching this episode. Talk to you soon. Peace. Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Security Podcast. This is probably the first few episodes of 2026, and if you are like us, probably wondering what can you do with AI in 2026. Well, Caleb figured out a chief of staff for himself, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Do we have a name for a chief of staff that you made over the long weekend or the holiday period, man? So this is, by the way, an AI, not an actual human. It's a chief of staff.
It is okay. So what I did over the holidays is basically like just code and do really fun stuff. And so one of, I actually completed several tools that I really needed and wanted. And then I started with saying, well, I want to understand a lot more detail about how, in my mind, it was like swarm of agents, right? Yeah. What does it take to orchestrate or command like hundreds of different agents that accomplish different things? And then that got me into a problem space I already have, which is chief of staff, which is like a chief of staff basically like manages like tons of different things going on simultaneously so that I don't have to figure this out. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I really want a chief of staff. And the person who I think of in my mind as the perfect chief of staff is if Iron Man's Pepper Potts, right? Like if you remember, she handled everything. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah. Iron Man just focused on cool tech, nerdy stuff. Yeah. And Pepper just handled everything else. And so I needed that. So I created Pepper. And basically, so Pepper is your orchestrator or manager agent. And it then can control different types of experts of agents. But the thing is like, when you think about what does a chief of staff do, the chief of staff needs to have access to tools. So access to your calendar, email, all that stuff is easy, right? To be able to do this. But you also need a chief of staff to know experts, to get in contact with the right people. So like, for example, if I'm talking to Pepper and I'm like, man, my foot hurts when I'm running on the treadmill at this specific thing. Like, I need to figure out what's going on with this. She'll go, okay, let me go figure out who the world's most expert is on feet and running. And what she'll do is she'll notice that there doesn't exist an agent expert for this. She will dynamically create a new agent that is an expert in foot and health running, provide it, create the prompt automatically, provide it access to the data that it needs about my health, provide access to the tools it needs, auto-generate that. Then Pepper will then have a conversation with this doctor and say, hey, my boss, Caleb, has a problem and describe the issue. The doctor will then say, hey, I need to know this information to be able to verify more, to do a diagnosis. And Pepper will then say, oh, that information I already have because I have memory and knowledge, or I'll just raise it up and ask Caleb himself. And then Pepper will come up and say, Caleb, I've talked to the doctor. Here's what the doctor needs to know. Do you want to communicate with him directly, or should I just pass the information on? And I'll say, oh, just pass the information on. Yeah, here's the answers. Pepper will then go back, continue the entire conversation, come up with the doctor's answers, interrupt me and say, hey, here's what the doctor said about the scenario. And I can say, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let me talk to the doctor directly. And then she'll connect to me. And then I'll just have a one-on-one conversation with the doctor, get that. And by the way, the cool part about all of this is any interaction I'm having with Pepper, any with these agents, memory is being stored. So I don't have to say, save this. Like, it'll remember. I automatically have a watcher. Pepper watches and says, oh, I've stated my age. I've stated facts. I've stated locations. These are all things that should be remembered. And so it will save it in memory, and it will reference it every time if it needs it again. Pepper can just reference it. And so now Pepper can just dynamically create and then manage a bunch of different agents as she goes around and does her stuff. So like, I did this one cool thing where I was like, okay, one of the things I need is I have digital mail. And so I need to access digital mail. There's no real MCP server, which is what I really need for this digital mail. It does have an API. So I basically told Pepper, hey, Pepper, I need to build an MCP server for this thing so that you can have access to my mail. Pepper goes, I already have a software engineer agent role. She goes and talks to the software engineer and agent role, creates a CTO agent role dynamically, passes it to the CTO. The CTO then works with the software engineer to then create an MCP server. And actually, I have a Ralph Wiggum agent, which is the thing that just kind of continuously just does it until they define the spec and the success criteria, and then just ran the Ralph Wiggum agent, and it created the MCP server successfully. And so then it goes and accesses my mail. Pepper now has access to my digital mail. All of this, by the way, I would say my interaction with that whole scenario was probably about 5 or 6 messages, and all that got done. It was and by the way, I use Claude Code for everything. So Claude Code is sort of the center of this whole thing. Yeah. And it just creates agents. Pepper manages the conversations. The memory gets stored appropriately. Tools get run appropriately. It's like, I've just come away from this thing like agents and managing agents at scale is getting to reality. This thing is like, I don't know if you remember this, but like a year ago, maybe it was, how long have we been doing this podcast?
3 years. This is the third season. 3 years. Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, so it has to be at least 3 years ago that I said the phases that at some point AI will manage at scale, right? Yeah. Where you can manage your production infrastructure for issues and it will auto resolve these issues. Like, I think we're getting pretty close to this. It's really crazy.
I think a few things that I took away from this, and I think it's pretty awesome that what you did. First of all, I think it's a great project. I think, I 100% agree, man. I think developers are already doing this. A lot of developers that I speak to who use AI for coding, some of them have gotten to a point where they basically start the code generation piece later in the night or just before they go to bed. In the morning, it's been running the entire night, creating all these requests. A pull request comes in. All the developer has to do is get up and just basically review the pull request and go, yay, happy, no happy, push through into production or not. And the competition is more around, I think I was watching, I don't know if it was the tweet thread or something, where the competition was how long can you keep running an AI agent? Like how long or complex you get tasks you can give them. Because I don't know, like the example that you gave of the foot or the electronic mail creating an MCP server, how long did any of that? Because I guess there's one is the feature component where, amazing feature, they build all of that. The other part is the tokens being used to produce this, and everyone who's listening or watching this, they'll be like, oh, how much did you end up spending on this? Or was that a max plan enough just to do this?
Oh yeah, max plan. Well, I mean, so far max plan, I have not hit limits of max plan yet. I think my token.
Wait, is this the one? Isn't there like a levels to max plan as well? There's like a 2,000 and there's 20,000 or something. There's like a large max, or
Is like a super max?
Yeah, basically. So you're saying that the max plan was enough.
Max plan was
and
enough.
Obviously you're kind of like all of us. You're a bit. Would you say you're a developer? I guess because a lot of people would look at this and go, man, I wasn't a developer. Maybe Caleb was a developer. Like I don't look at myself as a developer. I'm quasi script kiddie, copy paste code, all of that, and maybe scripting. But what level of skill set should a person have before they even walk this path of vibe coding their way into building a chief of staff for their life? Whether you are a principal engineer, architect, whoever. In my mind, when you say all this, I'm already going with, if I'm an architect, all my workflow for, hey, if my project requires me to build a infrastructure for AWS with AI, whatever, I just give it to Pepper in this case. Or I'm a CISO, I give it to Pepper my reporting for the month. There are all these tasks that are coming to my mind. Like how much of a coding expert do I need to be to get to like a stage one of what you're saying?
I don't think you need to be any coding expert at all. I don't think you need to even be a technology expert. I think as long as you have Claude or any AI per se,
like a CLI version, not the user.
Like if I were to tell someone who didn't know anything about tech, I do think in this scenario, if you want to make something as advanced as a multi-orchestrator or something along those lines, I think that using Claude Code is sort of the way to do this.
Yeah.
Therefore, I would have to you would use AI to ask AI to teach you at least the basics of Claude Code. But like, for example, in order for me to make the chief of staff, I'm a little bit more on the ground. So for example, I took a plugin that was a multi-agent orchestrator that I think does a really good job. Have you ever heard of Claude Superpowers before?
No.
Yeah, it's an open source project it's a plugin for Claude that does a really amazing job at building software projects, right? Like by far, like I think it's way better than anything I've used. And so Superpowers is an agent that controls other agents. And so I just went through the prompts because all it is prompts. It's not really source code. It's just prompts. And so I kind of went through to understand a little bit about how it works. And then I just went to Claude Code and I just said, this is what I want. I want a chief of staff who controls other experts, who creates the experts on demand when they don't exist, saves those experts once created. I need a shared memory layer and a shared document retrieval area, some vector database of some sort, in order to be able to do this. And then it just walked me through the planning session back and forth on, okay, what tech stack do we use? What features does it require? What observability, logging, and debugging, like all of that. It just freaking holds your hand through the whole thing. And then it creates a PRD, right? So then you get this PRD.
Yeah.
And you're like, great. All right, let's go execute it. And it breaks it up into testable chunks, executes each one, tests to make sure it passes. And then 6 hours later, maybe 8 hours, I think 6 to 8 hours, you have a Claude plugin called Pepper. And then I just started running it. And then I would come up with new features.
So it's a plugin now. It's not an interface you're talking to. It's a plugin.
It's a plugin. Yeah. So in Claude, I install the plugin and then I just do /Pepper and then I just do my thing.
Interesting. Oh, because I guess this is kind of where I think a few episodes ago we spoke about how John Ivey and Sam Altman have been talking about that always on piece of AI that would, I guess, whatever the necklace thing that they were making, where making it so easy that you don't have to no longer go on a browser, open Claude and put the plugin. It's basically, it's always on around you. Maybe it's on your Apple Watch or Apple phone or whatever. It's always listening and just going, hey, recording a memory of it. And I guess where I'm going with this is that
think about it, Claude Code being a forever persistent session.
Yeah.
So Claude Code becomes the sort of command control that is always running. And so Claude Code in and of itself is an agent that then controls Pepper, that then controls sub-agents, right? So it controls a sub-agent, which then controls sub-agents. And it's always running. So my integrations, all of these things can all coming into Claude Code. So Claude Code has been sort of this central interface at which then controls everything else. And it's amazing because it can, in effect, given the right tools and access, can do anything on your normal PC, anything on the web, like any of these things. It has that capability, and it has the automatic reasoning. And then everything is, not everything, but like a large part of everything you do is just prompts.
Yeah.
Right. So your expertise is prompts, your decisions are prompts, your actions are prompts, and then it's just access to tools. And only the tools have the code part, right? Which you either download existing ones or create, vibe code the ones you need. Like I vibe coded ones for my electronic mail, and then they just have access to it. And then everything is then rotated that way. It's pretty amazing. Like the more I've used Claude Code, Claude Code is not just for code, right? Like I think you can build your central command console for everything out of that.
Yeah. Wow. I think as you say that, in my mind, and maybe this is a startup idea for anyone who might be working on this as well, is that because in my mind, if I was the CEO of a company, let's just say, and you're the CEO of your life, you've just hired as chief of staff, which is an AI chief of staff. Now, if you just replace that chief of, you obviously have White Rabbit and your venture fund and everything. That if this can basically extend onto that as well, where the chief of staff is no longer just a personal chief of staff, it's also for your work context, an individual.
Yeah. Pepper does everything. So this is a good example. I also vibe coded my White Rabbit's both messaging, branding, color. What does that look like? What are the color themes we need to use? What does the website need to look like itself? And by the way, all of this was done through Claude Code. Similar. Yeah, all Claude Code. I basically just, using the same thing, created an expert in a sense of, hey, I want to go through what is my branding and messaging for White Rabbit should be. And what it did is you go through Q&A. It asks you questions what's most important about your branding is it needs to be personal to you. So give me your background. So I fed it both myself and my partner's background, resume, who we are, and what we enjoy, what we are personal like, and it deduced things. It's like, Caleb, you've done a lot in your career, but at your core, you're an engineer. Like you love hacking, you love coding, you love being, what you're good at. It basically told me is you're good at finding the problems. Yeah. Right. And then my partner is really good at being able to create big category winners out of solutions to those problems. That's what he's good at. Yeah. And it created all this. I created the messaging, created the branding, and then from then fed it into what's the right colors for you guys, the theme, and then the right kind of representation of the website. And then I took all of these documents. I went to Lovable. And by the way, I think I could automate this too. And then just dumped it into Lovable, and it just generated using the themes, the design, the brand, the messaging, everything. And it just generated the website. And it was largely 85% there. And then everything else was some tweaking around it. And it was done. So I did this for the holiday. And it looks like, I don't know, Ashish, you've seen it. Like, it looks professional, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I actually thought you had a few web developers in the background when I looked through it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And I guess it's one of those ones, man, because I definitely find, my hope is when people listen or watch this episode, they get to open their mind to the possibility. Like, I definitely find in 2025, a lot of conversation was more around, we don't know what we can do with AI. Like, what's the use case? Like a lot of CISOs and CTOs were trying to encourage the use of AI in their organization and talk about, hey, I want my team to use more AI. At this point in time, 3 years down the track, what you've kind of shared at the moment is that now you can not just talk to ChatGPT and Claude in a console like the consumer way. If given enough time, even if you were to take one weekend, you can literally just automate a lot more parts of your personal life, professional life, wherever you want to take this. And you mentioned
Can I give you another example?
Yeah, 100%. Go for it, man.
So here's another example. So I'm building these other tools. They're like stupid tools. Like, for example, there's no easy way to manage your Google contacts, right? I have a lot of Google contacts, and there's no easy way to do this. So I vibe coded an AI contact manager for Google Contacts just because I need it. It's a tool, right? But my problem was I hated testing. Every time it would vibe code and finish, you could run tests with Claude Code, but the problem with Claude Code is it loves doing unit tests and mocks of tests. And what I want is I want a real black box tester that goes through like a user, uses the thing, and then says, oh, it works or it doesn't work. I don't want it to have access to code. I don't want it to do any of that stuff. And my problem is I'm the one doing that. So I'm like, this is dumb. I should vibe code a black box agent tester. So I vibe coded and here's what's amazing about it. It's an AI black box tester, and you don't need to tell it anything about your project. Nothing. All you do is you point it at the project, and it will learn automatically what it is, what the purpose of the software is, how to test it, and then go through all of the variations. It will first say, oh, I'm going to test it primarily like a user would, install it, configure it, run through it. Does it work? Does it not work? Then it will go through use cases. Then it will go through edge use cases. Then it will go through like brute force performance testing. Like it goes, and then it automatically will then look at all the bugs, reconcile them, do analysis on it, determine which ones are really pertinent and what criticality, and then auto file the tickets as issues on the GitHub repo. So then like I got this thing called Context AI, which is the Google Contacts thing. And in the issues, it will auto create my bugs as it runs. And then what I've got, and then it'll take, so now I've got it where I've almost got it. It works, but I've got to work on how many iterations. Claude Code will pick up that a new issue was filed, take that issue, vibe code the solution, test it, come back and say resolved. And then when it comes back and says resolved, the black box will get issued, go and look at it, test to make sure that it works, and then confirm whether the issue was resolved. Like, this is now all automated. So I wrote this, I vibe coded that to do that. Like, think about this. This is amazing. And I did all of this, by the way, in the weekend. I mean, the holiday. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wait,
so I mean, by myself, nobody else, just me.
Yeah. I will say this as well for people who are watching and listening, and you want us to do a workshop on this, or you can do it for yourself. Just comment Pepper wherever you're watching or listening to this, and we'll just we'll do a workshop for you on how to do this, so you can make a Pepper for yourself. Yeah. But I guess I do want to call out. There's obviously enterprise use case that we can take this with this as well. I mean, you mentioned the example where you've used this for your venture fund, White Rabbit. You've used it for personal purpose, and you said you don't have to be a technical person. So I'm going to reiterate that fact that people who are watching and listening thinking that, I have to be an AI, like I have to be a tech nerd to begin with, born an engineer to love hacking. You don't need to do that. As long as you know what you're trying to solve and you're clear about it, and you can write a PRD, go back to the vibe coding episode where
the black box agent one written in Rust. I don't know anything about Rust. Never even looked at the code.
That's what made. Actually, I don't know, man. Like, because when I talk about these things where I did not know a language and I coded something, gets people a bit nervous because they automatically think about, does this mean my job is at jeopardy? And obviously, we are in the beginning of 2026.
Yeah.
Knowing what you've done,
yeah, I think people's software engineers' jobs are definitely in jeopardy.
Software engineers.
Yeah, listen, we still have a long way to go. It's not like these things are magic, but at the rate of capability and execution, and I look, man, I don't know anything about Rust.
Yeah.
And I built this black box AI,
which clearly works as well, by the way.
It
It's
really
actually
works.
testing.
Yeah, it works and it does a great job. Now, listen, I think the problem here is like, I can build something like that would normally have taken a pretty decent engineering team a good amount of time to make in the pre-AI world, right? By any cause. And I did that by myself, screwing around, and it took me, 4 to 6 days to get it into a really good state. Right. And this was sort of part-time. Not, I was working on, because you're sort of multitasking. I'm multitasking between different projects. Right.
You keep letting it run in the background while you do something else.
Yeah. That's right. And so it's sort of like, I like to think of it as like, when you play online poker, you're like doing multi-game poker, and like it's really good. Now, I think where the software engineering part, and I wrote a blog post about this, becomes problematic, is you can build these. And I actually think in the next 6 months or a year, the size, the complexity, and the refinement that you by yourself can just auto code projects is going to get, double or triple in capability is absolutely true. The maintenance and operation of these software things is where it becomes much harder. Like, for example, I open sourced this project for some reason, and people then start submitting bugs. Right now, someone has to sit there and like maintain, okay, what is this bug? Did it really fix this bug? Like, do I not? Like, how do I fix this bug? And this is the biggest problem with AI, without it creating 14 other bugs, right? Or changing the functionality of the software. And if I don't know anything about Rust, like, I don't know what it's doing or what it won't do. Minus the fact that I have a test suite, and I need to validate that it shouldn't touch any of these things. All these tests need to pass correctly. And so, like, I think getting into the maintenance and operation of software still is, I think, harder with AI, because it doesn't have sort of the managing operations mindset yet. But that's sort of where Pepper comes in, where I was sort of testing that a little bit at a small scale by a chief of staff. And if a chief of staff can constantly be monitoring my conversations, determining when to interject and say, let me help you with that, go and run parallel processes to go manage and do things. Like, every day, this thing, Pepper needs to look at my mail. Pepper needs to check my calendar. Pepper needs to do these things. Like, then you're starting getting into operations and management, and how well will it do? And, honestly, I think it's pretty decent. Like, it's so far looking like it's very capable. There's a guy who posted on Hacker News, I don't know, a couple days ago or something like that, about how he is now using Claude Code to monitor his production infrastructure issues and dashboard, and then alerting and investigating potential resolutions. And like, it works. So
I was talking to developers as well. Funny. I wouldn't even name the developer, because I know, how a lot of countries don't have forced leaves during the holiday period as well. This person, unfortunately, wasn't the on-call person. A week before the thing started, he wrote let's just say a bunch of agents to fill out his timesheet, quote unquote. When he logs in, logs out, he's got a laptop at home, by the way. He's up somewhere, I don't know, middle of Europe skiing or whatever he's doing, while his Claude Code is, I can't remember, obviously I don't think the person would ever publish it. It'll jeopardize his job. So I'll just I would not call it out examples, but essentially would say this, that he had code being submitted for pull request, which he could review at the evening if he wanted to, and would submit that. So, quote unquote, the manager or whoever thinking that there's actually code being submitted, the person's actually working. And they also had unit tests being created as well. So, and I find it really fascinating. We are moving towards a world where a company which would just say, hey, no AI, we want the good old school experienced software developer to come and solve the problems and challenge and define standards and everything else. I wonder how much of what Sam Altman said about we are entering the era of fast fashion SaaS, where we'll have a lot of these tools. I think there was a tweet from him some time ago where a lot of these tools would be created, discarded, perhaps created again and spread across, or maybe I may have my own toolkit where I walk around, I switch jobs, but I walk with my Claude Code Pepper version and go, oh, what are you guys code in? Oh, Rust. I have no idea what I do with Rust. Let me just, hey, Pepper, do you mind just like, it's like, you know how in Matrix, there was now I know Kung Fu moment, which is it's like one of those ones. Like that's in my mind, that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah. You know, let's take my black box testing agent.
Yeah.
I rewrote that project 3 times. First, I did it in TypeScript, then I did it in Go, and then I just said for just, giggles, let's just do it in Rust. Yeah. And it did it, and the Rust was the final version, and so I just kept it. But that was over a period of 6 days, man.
Yeah. Like, so you actually refactoring your code by that. This is actually refactoring of code.
Like restart, like from scratch. Yeah, completely from scratch.
So obviously we spoke about software engineers' jobs evolving, and there'll be a split between people who adopt AI and not adopt AI. What about security? Do you feel like what I mean, obviously, and I do want to clarify, I think we've mentioned this in a few episodes before, there's obviously a split happening in companies where there's the maintenance mode for the non-AI applications that's going to continue. I'm not saying that, unfortunately, no AI, we still have to do the whole AI transformation projects for that. That's what a lot of people are going through. We're talking about the newer features and products being built. That's what we are referring to. Is this, or I don't believe the legacy ones. I mean, mainframe is going to be mainframe forever as long as it wants to be. What would that new world mean for security? Because most of our audience is security. So curious, where do you see that go? Because obviously you're investing in companies as well, where a lot of these roles are being replaced by AI. But then if those components itself don't exist, where we're using AI for this new world that we're moving towards. And have you got some thoughts there as well?
I mean, I will repeat this. What is going to come is, and I think this references a little bit of the Sam Altman quote that you said, is that we're going to create app sprawl, right? Yeah. Which is same as when we had cloud and everyone and their brother spun up everything they could in cloud and was experimenting, right? Yeah. And prototyping. Yeah. And, I can just spin up a server for this. I can spin up an instance for that. I can spin up a Lambda for this. Like everyone was spinning up all these services and it became a massive problem, right? And then you had to have cleaning and maintenance. Like it became, cloud sprawl became a massive problem. Yeah. Now, attackers today take advantage of that because of all the loose permissions, sprawl configurations that are everywhere. And that's how keys, tokens, et cetera, get moved. And like, that's what happens. We have not had that in the application space, right? Like in the application space, applications have been pretty well defined. You, in any enterprise, you have an engineering group that has a generally set number of applications at which an entire team is dedicated and focused on both building and maintaining. And you have a developer pipeline that is focused to be able to produce, manage, and operate these things. And so now with this technology, the sprawl, I think, is crazy because not only will you have software engineers building the primary product at which your company makes money, that primary product is going to spawn 50 new features that it couldn't have done in the same amount of time the year before AI, right? It would take you 4 features, but now you could do 30 features that get produced. And also, I think your internal employees, your corporate employees are going to want to start building applications too, right? This is way, way bigger than, let's think about like what we do today, customize apps for every flow, for HR and people, for finance, for marketing, for sales. Everyone builds their own custom apps on Salesforce or Oracle. And then now, if you can get to this level of capability, everyone is going to want to produce their own versions of technologies, routines, and applications inside the corporate employee base. That's going to be crazy nuts. And all of this is going to create a way bigger app sprawl with bad configurations, bad security measurements, all of those things. And so I think enterprises, when it gets to this point, will have to start planning, what does an internal corporate engineering development pipeline look like? Right? Not a software engineering group, but a now corporate employees producing and building their own apps to work more efficiently, you have to now build pipelines for this. You have to build standards for that. That's, I think, will be very, very big in terms of what we do. And AppSec, by the way, which has always been, I think, some of the smaller teams inside of InfoSec is just going to blow up because the problem space is going to be way, way bigger at a much bigger
more complex
scale.
as well.
Way more complex. Yeah.
And I guess to your point, there'll be a lot of infrastructure creeping into AppSec as well, because it would, I mean, I guess to what you're saying as well, the example is no longer that I can produce Rust code, but I'm also creating memory infrastructure behind it, the domains being available on the internet, so exposure, you're almost making the AppSec person multi-skilled, for lack of a better word. It doesn't really matter if they're Rust or not.
And access to context and data is going to be crazy, right? Yeah. Like, even in Pepper, think about my personal life. In my personal life, I had to have access control to some degree. Like, I kind of implemented in a little bit of a wonky way, but like my health person, my health expert doesn't need to have shared memory access to my financial data, right? And so how do I make sure that is done? And I did do it, right? Actually, Claude Code did it. I didn't really have to, I just kind of discussed it with them. But like, okay, now like in this memory storage, my health expert only has access to health data. But the thing is that sometimes my health expert may want access to financial data. And this is where this collection of memory and data, knowledge per se, has to be amassed. And then it has to be shared across all these executors. And so in an enterprise, that'll be very dangerous. Like, how do you collect your data? How do you amass it? How do you, distribute it, share it? Because everyone's going to want it. Every agent is going to need it. Integrations become super key.
Yeah. I mean, especially in a regulated environment as well, where regulation requires you to have a data lineage, as they call it. Like, you're able to see who accessed data, when and where it was moved around, everything all the way from the origin to the place it is sitting at today, how many people or how many applications accessed it. There's so much complexity to data even before AI. It'll be interesting. So to your point then, I guess there are two parts to this. Obviously, we were talking about chief of staff, building it for people. There is another school of thought, and this is at least I believe so, would happen eventually, where the playing field would level up for a Pepper in the future as well. Someone would make a startup for this, or a product version.
I'm sure there's many of them already. There's a lot of these like EA assistant things. Yeah, but they don't do, what I need it to do.
I mean, your personal thing, but then I guess what we already do in organizations where you may have a cloud or an AI security product or AppSec product or whatever, it's a generalized product for, hey, 10 things on the internet that people care about, but somehow you have 11 and 12 that you have to customize yourself for your unique environment. So the same would apply here as well.
Which gets into the next theme of really personalized software, right? I think it's going to be a given.
That's kind of where I was going with. And I guess maybe that's where, maybe we don't see it today, but that's where Sam Altman, John Ivey, and Apple of the world are going with, because they realize there would need to be a device that would need to be your quote unquote Pepper, whether it's your iPhone with the Apple Intelligence, or whether it's a Sam Altman piece with whatever they were creating. Something would have to become your personalized Pepper who walks around with you and is every time with you whenever you need information.
I think that's part of just an always on recording device. And the other thing, when I think of personalized software, to some extent, and I'm going a little bit out on a limb here, but like, how do I purchase a product from a vendor and then use AI to be able to customize it to the exact needs of my requirements, right? Yep. And so there's an aspect here of how does the vendor landscape change? Like, for example, vendors as SaaS or vendors with non-open source code, how do they adapt to a potential future where personalized software is a requirement? And right now you can do this with open source, right? Because I can take any open source project and clearly personalize it with AI very quickly.
Yep.
To get it to do what I want. But, what does that look like for vendors in the future? How do you offer the ability to do this? Is it just APIs now that are exposed through MCP that then makes it your personalized versions? I don't know if that's good enough, or what level of exposure does the next generation of software have to be in order to make this a reality?
It's good food for thought. Personalized softwares and potential chief of staff for most people out there who watch and listen to this. I would definitely love to hear people talk about what they're doing with AI, maybe in the comment section if you want to drop that as well. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover from a chief of staff, build your AI perspective? I think we've kind of given people an insight into how far they can go with this and how they can.
Well, I don't think that actually the recording of this episode wasn't even intended to be this. It just our pre-talk.
Yeah,
our pre-talk.
It'll be hilarious if people comment Pepper and then we have to do a workshop on this. That would be really hilarious. But hey,
oh man, yeah,
we'll find out what happens.
Sourcing Pepper either, but
yeah, let it open source Pepper and just probably have people just solve their own bugs, and AI can solve its own bugs as well. But I guess just to kind of wrap this up as well, then I guess 2026 is the year that people should be continuing to pay attention to AI developments. Maybe not the tooling set, but definitely the code updates, because I guess as much as I would like to sit here and go, hey, jobs are not at risk, perhaps some jobs definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, man, just going through this weekend or this holiday, not this weekend, but this holiday. Yeah, I mean, I am definitely on this page of if we continue at this rate, which there's nothing saying that we wouldn't.
Yeah,
there's just no question jobs are going to be eliminated. I just think just across the board, in some sense, intelligence is what AI has now made a commodity.
Yeah.
And that is pretty interesting and scary to think about. So that means you spend your whole life learning to process, to be intelligent, to be an expert at something, and that's where your value comes from. And when that is now a commodity, yeah, I mean, that's just going to eliminate things.
Yeah. Maybe that's where I think people talk about the whole architect thing, where you almost become, and I do want to, first of all, I agree with what you said, but I think it's an interesting thought exercise to kind of imagine that most of the projects that we have worked on were people going out on a limb for this would be a great idea. Bank would be a great idea. Housing would be a great idea. So that used to be the gut feeling of most people that, hey, I think it's a great idea. We should try and build a bank, because someone would come, like, I'm going to find a problem, make a solution for the problem, sell the problem. I think in my mind, that what happens to that layer is where I'm coming from, because that's what created the experts. Once I created the bank and I had a solution, I wanted someone to maintain the solution for me. So I think my mind is going, what does that mean for the new architects as to how we design and how much of where it's going? But I definitely I'm more hopeful for the people who are experienced. I'm more nervous for the people who are coming in now, because they don't have the experience to kind of make a judgment call for this is good and this is bad. But for people who are experienced, at least they are able to say, oh, that's bad code. It should have some testing. This should run without any bugs. Hey, I would want to what you were saying. I wouldn't want my finance and health memory to be separate. There is no scenario it should be talking. Like, there are things that you, me, and others who are watching and listening who have experience would make a call for that others would not, who are just starting their career. I think my nervousness comes more for them than for the experienced people. I think that it should hopefully, they will figure it out. I'm optimistic in that context, but I think I'm more nervous for the people in university. But with that said, I do want to give some hope to people as well. Not like lower the bar of the podcast and walk away.
But you got to be, realistic, too. Like, there are no answers to some of this
today.
I was going to give some positive. I mean, the younger people, the one thing that they do have is they have time to adapt. So we don't know what the adaption is per se, but at least they've got the time to adapt, versus older people set in their careers may not have any time to adapt. depending on what the next 2 to 3 years look like.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like it's, the one thing that has always been said that continues to stand true though, is being a plumber or a general contractor is always a safe job.
So if you want to invest in a plumbing business today, this is a great idea. This is a reminder, people, find a plumbing business close to you, or actual real estate. Like, you start building houses if you want. Just like that would be a great skill, because people would still need houses to live in. It's like super cold here in London. So people would still need warm houses to live in. There's so many jobs that are still out there. Maybe the job profile changes. So I think one manager that I used to have ages ago was to say that at one point in time, the highest respected job you could get was the chariot rider for the queen. Today, that job doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Right? So, no one even knows what that job is, or if there is one, when there is no queen to begin with. So, but I guess that's kind of what happens here, is what I want to leave people with, that it would transform into something, but it would not be like a snap of a finger transformation. You would see it coming as someone who's experienced. I think that's kind of where I'm going with this. It's not going to be like you snap a finger, the entire organization doesn't exist tomorrow.
Man, I don't know. I'm starting to lean.
I'm trying to lead them in something positive here.
I'm leaning, I know, and I'm just leaning on. The more I screw at this, the more I get negative. The more pessimistic I get around this.
Well, let people comment on what they feel about this. I mean, I'm with you, and I would definitely say you can't be delusional. Definitely, there is a reality to this, which is why people should keep an eye on the whole AI as it evolves. But as most things do take time to kind of evolve and be slapped in your face. Like many people perhaps say no for AI for that reason. But I think it'll be interesting, man. I'm obviously still very optimistic and balancing on the realist tight wire that we are walking.
Your job in this discussion is to be the positive person.
Like, I mean, it's like the divider is a half glass full versus half glass empty conversation. No, but I think we definitely have, people can let us know your thoughts on the comment section, or just feel free to reach out, and more than happy to have more conversations about this. And again, if you want a workshop on Pepper, definitely drop the word Pepper and we'll give you a workshop. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next episode. See you. Thank you for watching or listening to that episode of AI Security Podcast. This was brought to you by techriot.io. If you want to hear or watch more episodes of AI Security, check that out on aisecuritypodcast.com. And in case you are interested in learning more about cloud security, you should check out our sister podcast called Cloud Security Podcast, which is available on cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.